It's time to stress out about what we can accomplish in this game. Alright. Okay, let's read these all carefully and figure out if one of them has like a time limit I need to worry about or something, besides the obvious. Havenage suspicion. All across the cordon, Havenage security guards are keeping a close eye on things, gain their attention, and you'll struggle to maintain access. That's the bad outcome. Tug escort. A crew willing to escort the Briar through the quarantine will give the ship a better chance of passing the cordon without any trouble. We need 6 points. This seems to give me 1 point. That's a bad start, because that means it might take multiple days just to do this one. Oh, but these are competing goals, aren't they? Right. These are 3 different approaches that might all work. This place was that? Look at the names of these places. Was it the canteen I did a second ago? Yeah. So that was the canteen. Here's the Cordon operations. Blind spot. Creating a blind spot in the Cordon's perimeter will give the Briar a better chance of evading detection when Esh makes her run. Havenage suspicion. All across the Cordon, Havenage security are keeping a close eye on things. Yeah, okay. So create a blind spot by sabotaging sensors. Also requires 6 points. So I have maximized the supply, but I have not done a good job on the actual plans. But we don't need all 3 plans, but if we have all 3, it's a better chance of success. If that's a real dice roll, that's a little scary in the chance of success. Also, if I get a negative outcome ever, we get one of these points, which is very bad. So I should probably only use good dice at all. Briar upgrade. The kind of thrusters the tugs use will give the Briar improved maneuvering, useful in the cramped quarters of the flotilla. I feel like help. Oh, deflect suspicions, how you get rid of the suspicion too. And if you fail, you get more suspicion. I think getting help would be helpful. I think that'd be good. Let's see. Looks like good outcome is hub escort. I think it's supposed to say tug escort because they don't match, but whatever. But if I fail, I cost maybe I guess if I negotiate poorly, it costs me money maybe. Bonus suspicion's actually not listed here, but I don't know. Maybe this is all kind of iffy. But let's give it a go. I just have to do my best. I'm pretty sure I cannot accomplish all these goals because I don't think any of them can be done. I can't do 2 at a time. So I can't do... If I get 2 pips at a time, I could do 3 in 3 dice. And I could reasonably do all the goals. Right now, I think I'm screwed. I do have the perfect dice, though, to have a 6 for 5 attempts. So we're gonna obliterate this right now as best we can. Only further highlighting how throttled I am in being able to make progress here, because having a full set of 6s was not enough to get through that. It's a bit rough. This is our only thing happening in the game right now, huh? We're down to just the expansion. Once I started the expansion, it definitely alleviated this idea, but I was going to point out a criticism that I had. Which is that this game has a similar problem to what Spiritfarer has, which is that once you reach near the end of the game, you just run out of stuff to do. Which is unfortunate for the one remaining thing that you do have to do. Because there's waiting baked into these games. Spiritfarer and Citizen Sleeper are both built around the idea that you bounce between different objectives. And so when you start running out of objectives, then whatever's left over, any wait time built into it gets really apparent and distracting. Spiritfarer in particular runs into this issue because it has DLC, and those DLC characters came out afterwards. So if you load into a finished game to play the DLC character, you really not only does like the whole formula of how how an individual character works get really exposed, but like you just have to get really stuck with how this one character works, and you also see how it kind of exposes how much there isn't that much to each character's arc to some extent, but also like without the multitasking, their tasks just aren't very interesting either. And the last few objectives I had were really starting to just pad themselves out. And the only reason that the pacing didn't dive like crazy was because of the fact that I had this objective, which was added recently, which is so much. But unfortunately, this game, this objective seems so designed for you to play it exclusively that it's kind of a pain that they added this to the game during the time you're still playing it and not after you finish it. Because you see how I'm just barely behind on being able to finish every objective? That's because Bliss came barging in with her stuff, because my main content was still happening while this was happening, because frankly, there was a little disclaimer, but it didn't fully contextualize. This will take up all of your time. It's designed to be, like, it's essentially designed in a vacuum where you're done with the game. It just had like late game content. I'm like, I'm pretty leveled up. I bet I can handle this. But they meant like, no, this is going to consume your full attention for like 12 cycles straight or something, which is a different piece of information than they gave me a bit. Because this is an incredibly consuming quest, and your success is primarily determined by whether or not you can give your full attention to it. Which, given that it's added to a game that people have beaten months ago, was often the case. But playing through it now for the first time with it already implemented, its implementations may be questionable. So it feels like it's so packed with tasks because it was supposed to use up its entire time and not let you have free time elsewhere, because otherwise you would have not had anything to do with that because you beat the game already and all those tasks are all done. You meet Peak leaning in the corner of the canteen in their typically unassuming way. It occurs to you as you approach that Peak must have had some practice at staying invisible. All good? They look up from their slate. What crew were you... that crew you were talking to? They nod to the group leaving the canteen. Will they join us? That's what they say. You aren't sure? Peak looks back at them as they disappear into the corridors of the installation. Looks like we'll have to take them at their word either way. Peak beckons for you to follow as they peel off the wall and head out into the walkway overlooking the Cordon. Glad you were here to talk them into it. I never had much of a way with people. Peak smiles and looks away quickly as you walk. You and Esh seem to do okay. Peak laughs. Their light and easy laugh. Esh is not really like other people, which you've probably noticed. If only everyone was like Esh. They fade off. Something drawing their attention. What I mean is, people have caused me a lot of trouble. I've had people hate me without knowing a thing about me. They tuck their hair behind their ear. I'm sure you know the feeling. I do. Pete glances at you. Sorry to hear that. It marks you, am I right? It does. Peak nods. You both walk in silence for a moment. Not an awkward silence, but one of solidarity. We're having a conversation about queerness in this game. I was wondering if it was going to come up, because there was an obvious use of non-binary characters, and also, even if I fuck up a bit because I'm talking about my own character in first person, the sleeper is referred to they as well. So I'm referred to as they, Peak is referred to as they, and what's their name? The person that gave me stabilizers was referred to as they. So there's an ongoing thing going on here. There's trans non-binary characters. I was wondering what they were going for with Esh, like whether or not they're going for some form of neurodivergence with their presentation as a character. And I'm just kind of curious what they're poking at here. But we're actually in conversation with the idea of queerness here, which has been a thing I've been kind of waiting to come up, because there's definitely we're making the coded nature of our protagonist text, and that they are something separate and that has to survive and thrive. And we're specifically dealing with what I hinted at earlier, with the idea that, like, to be queer is to be constantly told by the system that things will get better, and then they don't. And like, that's It's the relationship that the LGBTQ plus community has with legality, the law, and how oftentimes, like, you know, be gay, do crime. Like, there's it's not supposed to be like, crime is good inherently. Well, in some ways it is, but it's a question of the idea that, like, why would you care about what's legal or not, and what the system says is supposedly moral, if that doesn't align with your own morality, and their own morality aligns against your existence. Like, it's really dumb to talk about what's legal or not when, in many cases, you are in various ways not legal. Like when you get into, like, states that still have laws against sodomy, and you're like, what the first of all, just like, in what universe does the state get to have any opinions about how people have sex? Like, what the fuck? But it's obviously, like, inherently designed to be homophobic and so on. Or the fact that, like, a gay marriage is only legal in the United States because of the Supreme Court making a big judgment out of nowhere, as opposed to, like, you know, the states actually, like, either the federal government or the states actually making, like, the correct, reasonable choice. Like, we were told to wait, and it didn't happen. Just a bizarre other power that gets to make insane calls on their own is the only reason that it happened. And now that court is not stacked in our favor, so that's not going to be happening much. It's just there's just a whole thing we get into here about, like, having these queer-coded characters and just literally queer characters be told to just wait and things will work out, and that's why they shouldn't do anything illegal, is like, that rings so false, both allegorically and just in reality. Blah. Peak leads you around a corner, heading back to the main Cordon access way. I appreciate you coming in and helping us out of this, sleeper. On talking to the crew and, well, you know. Maybe after this insane plan is done, we can talk properly. They keep looking ahead, and you realize they're nervous. I'd like that. Peak smiles, looking down at their feet. That's settled then, they say to the door. I better report the news to Ash. We have ourselves a tug escort. Peak stops at an intersection. See you soon, sleeper. And please, take care. And with that, they drift away. Their head down, their gait changing as they do, their practiced invisibility shrouding them like a cape. Alright, so now we have the choice of do we upgrade? This is dangerous, but it is engineer, which I have a +2 at. That's probably one of the other incentives here. Which ones do I specialize in? Sabotage sensors. So everything takes the same number of steps to do, but slice sensors, I have a lower... Ooh. Let's see. I should probably focus on the one that I have the highest chance of succeeding with. I don't know if I even get to try again. But, like, this one gives me the +2, so it's the one that I have the highest chance of being able to complete between tomorrow and today. And that just depends on whether or not they even let me do any more attempts before I activate the event tomorrow when the thing is full. I'm not entirely sure about the logic there. Random scrap. Oh, this is bad. 25% chance negative. We're on the edge anyway, I guess. It's running out of time. Well, I got the upgrade at least. But that's bad. Yep, all negative outcomes are severe right now. Well, I can sleep safely. If the story goes on any longer, I'm gonna have to worry about getting my injection. But I should be able to make it relatively easy because the mushrooms are ready. I just need the time to harvest the mushrooms. And I'm spending all of my time on this. She's gone, sleeper. Pika's breathless and shaking. She started the run without us. Ash? Pika looks confused. Who else? Don't be a smartass. Let's go. If we head to the Cordon now... Pika starts back up the corridor. They turn back. She has to make it, Sleeper. She has to. Well, I barely made it. I'm getting one of the things ready. A shiver runs down your spine. Ash, I hope you know what you're doing. Oh, I'm nervous about this. What if the chance of success is super low? I think I might have fucked up. What? Sleeper, long time. Moritz is smiling at you when you leave. Clearly happy to see you again. Moritz, good to see you. It's not a good time to see you. Same. He rubs his hands on his jacket. How have you been? Working hard? I bet. He grins. Well, you're always welcome to hang out at the bay if you want. He glances around. Actually, that's what I'm here about. I know Bliss said she didn't want to take any more big jobs, but she's changed her mind, or something. He grins. Because now we have someone looking for a refit of the ship in our bay. You would not believe it. They want their entire ship disarmed. Cutting out defense arrays, weapon lockers, ship-to-ship countermeasures, the whole lot. He leans in. We'll be able to start an arms dealership with all the hardware we'll have up there when we're done. He laughs. Anyway, it's a massive job and we need some hands. Bliss said to go get you. So come on up. Bliss is waiting on you to accept the job. He pauses. It'll be good to have you up there again. He grins. Like old times. It's been like 4 days, buddy. Awkward that those both triggered the same morning. I don't know what's gonna happen. I think I fucked up. I'm really worried. I just had such a big task in front of me that the idea that I had a second other big task that I was neglecting was just like too much to focus on. You arrive, frantic and anxious, at the Cordon. Peak is nowhere to be seen. Then you hear footsteps, hammering on the metal stairway Helena's drone led you through before, the one that leads up to the observation deck. You leap up the stairs two at a time, and make it to the top, momentarily blinded by the light pouring into the observation deck. Sleeper. Peak emerges from the light. I know she's trying to protect me, but it's okay. She chose. But what about my choice, Sleeper? I'm not a child anymore. I can fight for myself. They turn away. There she is. Peak rushes to the wide window, leaning forward to catch a glimpse of the climbing Briar's blue XPR livery against the black of the void. You spot the climbing Briar, a glint of blue and white, and beside it, the red glare of a tug's lights. The tug crew went with her. Peak smiles. I knew they'd keep their word. They'll help. Peak doesn't seem to hear you, but the idea of the crew backing Ash up makes you smile. Maybe this thing will work. You watch as the Briar and its tug escort arc down towards the edge of the Cordon, demarcated by the red lights of the perimeter system. So far, so good. The Briar will just look like another refugee ship being escorted to the Cordon, at least at a glance. Peak grips the rail as Ash reaches the edge of the Cordon, that invisible net of sensors splayed between ships and drones. Can she pass through? The response is immediate. The moment the Briar hits the net of sensors, the entire Cordon reacts. Sequences of blinking lights cascade out of the ship's position, the angry red of the Cordon multiplied many times over. Shit. Peak presses a hand against the window. Go, Ash, go! As if responding to Peak, the Briar goes into a steep dive, plunging through the skin of the Cordon into the mess of ships beneath. You move closer to the window without thinking, unable to take your eyes off the rapidly descending ship, spinning between the hulls of the flotilla, a group of tugs now tracing its path in pursuit. She's going to have to do this fast. Peak looks concerned as the Briar searches for a place to dock. You glance around for pursuing tugs, but for a moment they seem to be elsewhere. Ash pulls the ship in, aiming to dock with the largest of the flotilla's ships. A vast, converted tanker, half of its protective plates removed. You think the effort it must have taken to get this thing all the way here from the inner system. You watch the Briar, unable to get any sense of progress from its placid exterior. They will be offloading everything now, Peak says, both assuring you and themselves that everything is going to plan. You think of all the supplies loaded into the Briar, and how long the process of unloading might take. The bay was packed, rammed with everything you could offer. And the thought of bringing all that to the flotilla makes you smile. You think of the reaction of the refugees, of the welcome they'll give Esh as the bearer of such gifts. You even imagine a smile from Esh as she is showered with thanks. You focus on that as you watch the Briar, and continue the nervous wait for it to finish unloading. It's breaking off. Peak points at the Briar, and you can see the puff of air and dust that accompanies an emergency depressurization. Esh must have ended things early, but why? But then you see them. The tugs closing in on the Briar. Havenage must have spotted the ship. You and Peak are up against the window again, willing the Briar a safe passage out of the flotilla. The Briar drifts through the flotilla, but is agonizingly slow. Come on, Esh. Peak shouts in desperation, pressing a palm against the glass. You squint at the gathering yellow glints of the tugs. They're too fast. You both watch in dismay as the tugs swarm the Briar, their shunts locking onto the hull of the ship and holding it in place. The Briar is stuck, its drives unable to access the tug's grip, especially in the close quarters of the flotilla. Peak is silent, and you watch as the Briar is dragged away towards the facility at the edge of the rim, a hole opening up in the pit of your stomach. You look at Peak, but they don't respond. They don't take their eyes off the Briar. Even after it disappears, they stand there at the glass, their eyes fixed on the flotilla. She didn't get the supplies through. Peak doesn't look at you. This was all for nothing. We can get her back. This was stupid, Sleeper. Peak looks back at you, their eyes wet. A stupid plan. We had a ship, and our freedom. Now what do we have? Peak slams a hand on the glass in frustration, making you jump. I won't be trapped again, I won't. They turn and rush out of the observation deck before you can say anything, leaving you alone with the cold and the light. Well... damn. Cleaning up. Helen left a message with one of her drones for you to meet her here once she's done cleaning up the mess. Well, that bodes very poorly. I tried. God damn. Well, man, I think Bliss kind of fucked me on this. I don't know how much is up to my decisions or like how much. I think you might have had to absolutely complete everything. You can even see like the slots kind of where different points were happening based on which things you had done. Like there is a part of the story where the crew helps her, a part of the story where you get where she goes through the security, and a part where she has to outrun pursuit. And that's based on you getting the crew, you creating a hole in the security, and you making the thrusters faster. Like those all had like clear spots where they slotted into the story. Well, it's an odd game where you can go back on that kind of stuff, so we'll see how it plays out. Does the story keep going through the supposed trilogy of expansion things if you fail the first part? When you enter the bay, it is weirdly quiet. Moritz must be out on some errand. And maybe Bliss is prepping the kit? Ankita. Sleeper. Ankita is drifting at one side of the bay. You missed her completely when you came in. The idea of not seeing Ankita when you entered a room would have seemed unlikely to you several cycles ago, but seeing her without her armor, she seems smaller, less imposing. What are you doing here? I was about to ask you the same thing. She kicks off from the wall and comes a little closer. So what is this? She asks. Come to avenge Ashton or a Sleeper? Or just looking for another payout? Her anger is familiar. but quieter than before, restrained. Don't start. Start what? You are the one following me up here. She looks away, and you can tell her anger isn't directed at you in particular. It radiates off her like fire. You better be ready to sign, comes a shout from the bay entrance, because I've got my best repair tech coming up here especially, and they are going to... Bliss glides in and suddenly stops herself when she sees you and Ankita standing off. Oh, Sleeper, you're already here. Miss Cassetta, this is the tech I was telling you about. Best of the She stops, looking between the two of you. Wait, do you two know each other? You and Ankita look at each other. She's a killer. Sleeper! Bliss pulls you aside. She's a merc, Bliss whispers. I assume she's a killer, but I need to land this job. She pulls you back to Ankita. Bliss produces a slate. Now, Miss Cassetta, if you'd like to sign our damage waiver here, we can start on the decommissioning. She looks at you. My tech here is eager to get started, as am I. Ankita scrawls her signature across the slate. Thank you. Bliss pauses. And everything's okay with the special payment terms we discussed? She gives Ankita a strange smile. Oh, fine, says Ankita, giving you another hard look. Then she kicks off and drifts to the entrance. I'll be in the gimbal, she says, and leaves. Special payment terms? She looks over her glasses at you. Look, Sleeper, there's something I have to tell you. She glances around again. What is she so nervous about? This isn't exactly a typical job. Miss Cassetta, Ankita, she gives you a knowing look, doesn't have the chits to pay us, so we've made a special agreement. She sighs. I'm leaving. You're joining a mercenary crew? Don't make me laugh. Ankita's an ex-merc. Why do you think she's getting us to remove all of her ship's armaments? Amber. The ship's called Amber. Bliss gives you a funny look. There's some deep history here, huh? She holds up a hand to stop you answering. Look, all I care is that she is headed to the starward belt. She looks out of the bay. That's where I'm headed. She turns back to face you. Also, I wanted to ask. She stops, unsure. If you'd like to come with us. I would. She interrupts before you answer. I know things have been hard for you on the Eye, and you helped me so much. I asked Ankita if she'd carry two of us, and she said yes. Moritz will take over the bay anyway. Although, if you stay, you are welcome to help him run it. I just thought, she sighs, you might be in need of a fresh start as much as I am. She turns away nervously. Think about it, anyway. The berth is there. We've got to finish the job first anyway. And with that, she kicks away and heads to the racks before he can offer an answer. Moments later, Moritz enters with a new cutting torch for disarming the Ambergris. The starward belt. You push your thoughts to the back of your mind. Time to get to work. Well, one more ending for the go. Gives our series finale a bit of a finale, I guess, because I get to do an ending at the end, and then the series will be on hiatus and or over. I don't know. Whenever I stop and be like, maybe we'll come back for the DLC, that is a gamble, because there is always so many things competing for my attention, and it's like that my DLC to-do lists is infinite, it feels like. Ankita wants it all out. Weapons, countermeasures, torpedoes. It'd be a risky job if you didn't know Amber so well. Refitting Amber. Once the job is ready, you better be ready to make a fast decision. Stay with Moritz, or go with Ankita and Bliss. And I'm a good engineer, too. Would you like another one? Alright. Don't want to quite be done with this yet. We're also waiting for the other event to come by. I don't think there's a time limit for that thing. Let's gather our mushrooms for my stim. I don't think this one can go bad, really. 2 random mushrooms. Just not good ones, I guess. I'm waiting for her to clean up the mess so I can get the resolution of that story. Unless it keeps going. For all I know, there's more. But that'll be tomorrow. Alright. And now I need spores again. 3 spores. Let's work on this for the first time. With a couple of club head caps, Rico can extract the miraculous stabilizer they produce. It's a hard thing to believe. Ah, just like that. I was wondering if there'd be a crafting time to it. So now I have 1 more stabilizer. I was all out, but yeah, the storyline where our previous duo said goodbye and they gave me 3 injections, that's all I had. I was down to just that. Oh, I meant to do 4 spores. I did the Wiranga run. A few more spores, please. I definitely appreciate the story they went for, but I do find like I do feel like this game was too easy across the board. And I know I just talked about like the iffiness of how like they had an objective that required all of my attention. I'm just a little iffy on the fact that it feels like that one and a specific objective required all of my attention so much because of the fact that it was probably made for people that are done with the game, and so it felt a little iffy that I had distractions coming up still, whereas other players would have had 0, but that's just like a different thing entirely. But I mean, like, the resource management wasn't that difficult, which I think on some level weakens like the gameplay expression they're going for, but also just didn't make it that difficult. Like, it really did become just a series of tasks that I do in whatever order I feel like, and then just you get the story. So there wasn't really tense decision making as much as I thought there would be with like being freaked out about, oh fuck, they gave me those dice today. It wasn't that big of a deal. I'm sorry, Sleeper. Helena comes towards you along the walkway, but your friend must have known there was a chance this would happen. She seems unsure how to greet you and looks nervously around. She is being held along with her ship. What now? I don't know, Sleeper. I don't know. Helena pinches the bridge of her nose. Cordon security has your friend, and she and her ship will be held in quarantine until it is lifted. As for the quarantine, she glances at her slate. We are working on it, but the council is unlikely to budge now, not after this. She runs a hand through her hair. This is the last thing I needed. Helena meets your eye. She was carrying weapons. Do you know that? She stares at you. We found a crate of firearms on the ship. Stay silent. Helena meets your eye. Oh, the same dialogue played twice. When I stayed silent, the whole paragraph repeated. This seems to be an issue. And the refugees? Well, the flotilla got its supplies. Your friend has to be commended for that. Helena shoots you a glance. Even if her stunt has only worsened the crisis, the reports we are getting from the refugees is that things are stable there. They seem to be well organized. So well organized, in fact, that they have stopped speaking to us. She looks nervously around. I'm worried, Sleeper, about what is happening in there. But after recent events, Cordon security are keeping the place locked down tighter than ever. No one can get in. Meanwhile, the hardline counselors are preaching in the chamber as we speak. It's a deadlock, and I don't know when it will loosen its grip. Helena walks a little way and turns back. I wish I had better news, Sleeper, but we knew this was coming. And the refugees suffer. Helena turns away. Enough, Sleeper. My hands are tied. They're making a point to have her say exactly what they said she would. About how your hands are tied. We still don't know why the flotilla came here. Why they abandoned settlements and outposts throughout the system to flee to this ruined station. What little we heard from them concerned computer and life support systems collapsing in waves, machinery in flux. Helena sucks in a breath. This isn't over. But this is potentially an argument that the quarantine might exist for a reason, because there might be a thing that spreads from the ship and makes more problems for the entire station or something. But also, like, people fleeing a cascading failure across space. I'm like, this actually takes me back to Doctor Who Flux, of all things, given the title and everything, which is a terrible, terrible season of Doctor Who. It's the worst season of Doctor Who in the entire run of the new show. Like, it is improbably bad. It is unwatchable on a scale that I could never have predicted. I was so confused that it existed in that form. Wow. You think of the people of the flotilla. Helena's right. People don't abandon their homes for nothing. What wave is rushing through the system? And when will it reach the eye? Helena interrupts your thoughts. I have to go. The debates will restart soon, and I should be there. She waits for a moment, and it is unclear if she is trying to think of something to say, or just waiting for you to speak. But the silence keeps you both quiet, and she walks off down the corridor, a nod, the only farewell she offers. You hoped that speaking to her might ease the knot of worry in your chest, but it remains there, reminding you of Esh, of the refugees, and the wait ahead. What's done is done, no matter how many times you turn it over in your head. You get the feeling that you'll be needed soon, and for that you must save your strength. What was it Feng told you, Erlin said? The eye opens for us all? Not this time. For now, the eye remains closed for those that need it. A shudder runs through you. Something is coming, you can feel it. This isn't over. They're heavily reinforcing the fact that you have to wait for more content to come out. Episode Flux complete! Ta-da! See you in episode Refugee. Or Refuge. There's no second E. October 22. Oh, right around the corner too. But not in time. And then I think there's gonna be a third episode, so I might as well just come back when both of the next episodes are out or something. Briar Base Camp. Oh, it's my home now. With all the usual stuff there. And this place is just covered in homes for me. Alright, let's go get ourselves another ending. This kind of calls all the endings into question in a way. Like, what good is it for you to become part of the consciousness of the ship and its mushroom AI stuff or whatever, if the whole place gets taken out in episode Refuge or whatever? Are all these ones where you just leave and go somewhere else? Like, will the wave of whatever's going wrong hit those places too? See if I can sell my G-roll. And Matsutake. That's still worth a lot. You let me cook G-roll. Oh, it gives you energy. Gotcha. So between G-roll and club heads, you can just maintain both of your meters, at least to some extent. I was wondering what exactly that action did. I'm like, can you sell it? the booze or whatever? I like that the characters from the past started coming up again. That kind of never happened ever, but now we have these two storylines converging together. And the episode Flux also ends with quoting Feng, which might have been an optional character. Like maybe you could have avoided meeting him altogether, in which case they would be they'd have to put a conditional statement to make sure that it doesn't show up at the wrong time. Or maybe you have to meet him because you have to resolve all events in order to go to sleep. So maybe you have to meet people when they make you in some cases. Because they also referenced Feng when the drone came up, and our character wondered if that was him. Amber looks better than she ever has before. Bliss has done an incredible job of cleaning up the hole, and despite the exterior changes being limited, she has the impression of being lighter, somehow sleeker than before. Moritz drifts by. He has been loading up the final equipment onto Amber, and it turns out that Ankita will be taking her weapons, but packed and ready to sell at the first Starward belt port she hits. But now that Moritz is done, he seems in a kind of daze, floating back and forth aimlessly. You okay, Moritz? What's that? He turns. Oh, right. Yeah. Packed and stacked. He smiles a weak smile. Was hoping Miss Cassetta could let me keep a warhead. For what? He shrugs. I don't know, just might be a cool thing to have around. Hey, Sleeper. He looks down. Did you know Bliss was leaving? You understand now. She told him. That's why he's like this. I did. He nods, distractedly. She said this place is mine. He looks up, around the bay like it is suddenly some vast space he doesn't know what to do with. Can you manage it? He looks down at you, and a glazed look on his face. I don't know. I just don't know. A dark look suddenly crosses his face. Hey, Sleeper. There was something Bliss said. He meets your eye. Are you going too? Before he can answer, Ankita glides into the bay, a massive crate on her shoulder. Sleeper, you coming or what? Bliss is already on board. She stops by the terminal, holding herself in place. Moritz looks at her with a dazed expression. You look at Ankita. She's keeping it together now. She's packed all those bad feelings down someplace where you'll never see them, and built a tough foundation on top. She may not be a mercenary anymore, but you imagine most people would think twice before trying to cross her. Well, she looks at you. I'm not eager to spend another moment of my time on this station unless I have to. She pauses, looking between you and Moritz. She sighs. I'll give you a minute. And she kicks off with the crate, taking it to the end of the bay where the Amber sits docked. You look back at Moritz. I'm going. Moritz looks like he might pass out. I get it. He steels himself. It's the right decision. Thank you. Hey, thank you for working with me these past cycles. He smiles a shaky smile. I learned a lot. Hey, look. He moves a little closer. You gotta find what you need. I did. You've gotta find what you need. I did. Bliss, this place, you. This is everything I needed. He sniffs. I was in a bad place, and this pulled me out. He looks away. You go find it. Ankita comes back across the bay, the final crate stowed. You coming then, sleeper? I'm coming. She nods. Well, okay then. Come on over with your things and I'll get you settled. She pauses. I'm sure Amber will be happy to have you. You both glide away from Moritz, his eyes wet, but a smile on his face. He waves as you go, dwarfed by the vast bay, and you hope he will make it, even though you know, somehow, that he will. Ankita helps you through the lock, onto the amber, and the sense of familiarity is overwhelming. You think about all the time you've spent working in these corridors, listening to these sounds, diagnosing those hisses. Ankita gives you a minute before she speaks. Look, sleeper, I'm not going to go back over everything that happened. She sighs. I'm trying to put that behind me. She stops, unsure of how to proceed. It's okay. The past is done. She nods. She stops. Thank you. I don't know if we can begin again, but we can move on. She sounds pained, tired. As you move off down the corridor towards the berth, she tries again. I don't think it was that I thought the wrong things about who or what you are. I think I just didn't think. Of you, I mean. I didn't think about how things might affect you. And I realized I've been like that for a long time. Focused, stubborn, willing to get the job done at any cost. She pauses. This is hard for her, but you don't want to interrupt. Well, I'm sick of paying that cost. I'm sick of being used as an extension of something bigger, something crueler than me, and having that cruelty, that violence flow through me. I just want to be me for a while. She looks down, or at least figure out who that is. She takes a deep breath. So what I'm saying is that you can get off at the first port we hit in the belt. I won't blame you. It's a smart move. She pauses. Or you can stick around. We'll see if we can find a way to make space for all of us. She looks away, her energy exhausted. I'll think about it. She nods. Nothing else. This is you. She turns you to a small room with a bunk and a porthole to the flickering lights outside. The outside wall is sloped, like a roof, and tucked beneath it is a small desk and terminal. Bliss is next door, though I think she's in the hold right now. She said she wants to make sure the warheads are locked down tight. Ankita observes your nervous response. I mean, they are, obviously. She gives you a look. Ankita slips away, and you look around the room. You go over to the porthole and place a hand on the wall and feel the amber purr. You think you're gonna like it here. You stay like that for a while, looking out the porthole. One hand on the wall, feeling the ship. It is through that porthole that you will watch the eye getting smaller and smaller, drowning in the black. At some point it will become so small that you could hold it between your thumb and index finger, and then it will wink out, and you won't be able to see it anymore. And it is at that moment you will finally exhale and collapse into your bunk. In moments you will be asleep, and when you wake up, it will be among friends. On your way to somewhere new. Where you then get to panic and hope you can survive in that place. That's the caveat of every ending in this game, is I'm like, yeah, but can you keep getting the thing you need to survive there? Which the exception is the one where you get downloaded into a program. But outside of that one ending, it's like, are you gonna be okay? Is this gonna work? Can I survive the trip to where we're going and then find what I need when I'm there? It's an acknowledgement that this place isn't enough, but it's also a reset. You're giving up every advantage that you've gained in this place, because by the end you have all these connections and ways of getting what you want. Although not that many. Admittedly, by the end you do genuinely lose your ability to buy any more stabilizer, because the only person giving it to you is gone. Sabine, there we go. And with them gone, that means you're down to just this one mushroom patch. You have to be able to always forage for spores, and you have to always be able to grow what you need, or you're fucked. But admittedly, there is a weird guardian angel gardener AI creature thing that is intentionally protecting you, so I guess maybe things will work out forever unless the flux takes it out. So I guess there's that. I don't know. Your future seems a little questionable in most of the cases, but the options are there. But anyway, that was Citizen Sleeper. It's interesting. It was generally well written, and I had a good time with it. And I thought that its mechanics were interesting in how they're implemented. I just think that there's better ways they could have been executed. But I wonder if they were just worried about making it too difficult to progress in a way that makes it hard to just see the story they wrote for you. But if they make the gameplay too easy, then it does kind of end up becoming a visual novel with extra steps that have a metaphorical resonance that's worth expressing through gameplay, but doesn't fully accomplish the difficulty that you'd hope that gameplay would give you in order to express the idea that the sleeper's having a hard time. It definitely feels like he's having a much harder time at the beginning, but the idea that there's like a power creep feels like a weird choice, given the fact that, like, you're seemingly telling a story about the struggles of this situation. So if you stop struggling, then it stops feeling like that's applicable. And it really is the moment you get, like, pretty much the moment you get a discount on the stabilizer, either through your skills or I think there was another thing that gave me a discount. Suddenly it just becomes a wildly affordable thing. And at some point I just kind of stopped having to make money myself, to the point where, like, feels like for a pretty big chunk of the game I pretty much just made money for the sake of curiosity. Like, you spend money to start Bliss's operation, and I spent money to get in that one capsule just to see what it was inside, and there was nothing. It was not like the way I thought it might be, like when you discover the AI in the vending machine, but it's just a bed. Like, all right, well, here we go. And yeah, like, going back and forth across, I almost feel like they might have had a different plan at one point. Going back and forth across certain areas costs nothing. It just costs money to unlock the thing at first, basically. And it kind of feels like they might have intended that to cost money, because the menu is mandatory. Like, when I scroll to the Greenway, I can't just scroll there. I have to click on the thing and travel manually. I wonder if they had tolls that were supposed to be part of the game at one point, and they got dropped, because it definitely feels like that would be where you'd put a toll somewhere, and then that would be a thing that the player has to consider about, like, whether or not they want to go to that part of the ship again, or if they need to, or if they're going to try to do something here, because it makes travel a consideration. Travel kept feeling like it was supposed to be an element of the game, but instead you just scroll everywhere for free and there's no time limits. But like, the fact that there's a bed in each section of the ship, of the eye, and there's alternate ways of making money and alternate ways of getting food, all seem to continually suggest the idea that maybe you were supposed to pay money to travel at one point, and then they dropped that idea, but I don't know. I'm grasping and guessing and whatnot. But anyway, see you guys next time. Next up, we'll be playing Echo, because I know in advance, because I already have like 20 episodes of it backlogged. I've been recording it with Stephanie ever since we finished Ad Astra. I just wanted to do something besides furry visual novels between, like, I just didn't want to do two of them back to back. I wanted to play a different game in between and alternate a bit. And it sounds like this game might be very long, so but it's divided into routes. So I might do a couple of routes, then play another game, then a couple of routes, and so on, to just like mix things up in a similar way. Also gives me the chance to backlog this footage, which is good for a few different reasons. Like Stephanie and I have enough time to like do it whenever our schedules happen to meet up, so we can have this footage and be sure that it'll come out on time when it's expected. But also, the further ahead we are, the less people can spoil things, which is always good, because they'll be reacting to stuff from way back. People are really bad about spoilers in that if you say something that's like kind of ironic because of something that's going to happen later, people are like, oh, look at that thing he said, wink wink, I get it. I'm like, I hate that kind of comment so much, because like that kind of comment is so easy to decode. Like if you quote somebody about something they said and like side eye winky wink about the idea, they're like, ha ha ha, it's funny they said that, huh? Immediately anyone can look at that comment and be like, oh, that means that this is gonna happen. Like, it's not hard. Never make those kind of comments about something that you don't want to spoil for people, because you are spoiling it for them. They're not idiots. It takes like 1 second of reasoning to get there. But anyway, we're off topic. Citizen Sleeper. Neat game. See you later.